Hey guys, thanks so much for coming and sparing an hour of your time at this talk. So this talk is on what is new with Windows Phone Silverlight apps. My name is Sam Jarwan. Harini here is going to be helping with some code demos. We're both program managers on the operating systems team, the developer platform XAML team. I know it's a long name. Over the past year, so I've been working directly on the Silverlight 8.1 update. That's my day job by night. When I'm not playing with my 4 kids, I'm usually working on some of my apps. I've got a dozen or so apps in the stores, and so I'm kind of a developer like some of you guys. So I'm just curious, how many of you guys have a phone app in the store today? Oh, awesome. Okay. How many have a Windows Store app? Okay. And both? Actually, I saw similar hands. How many don't have an app now, but plan to release an app at some point in the future? Okay, awesome. So this is going to be pretty relevant for most of you folks. I saw almost all hands go up. At the end, we're going to take some questions. I'm going to try to go a little bit quickly, so I'll have some time for questions at the end. I've got a few little giveaways to hand out. Oh, this is not turning over. There we go. I got to be close to this, apparently. So there's a couple key takeaways I want you to get from today's talk. The first is understanding the difference between our 2 XAML-based frameworks on the phone. One is XAML, one is Silverlight. And then figuring out which is best for you, for your existing apps and any new apps that you guys are planning in the future. And it might not be the same answer for both. And then lastly, I'm going to show you a ton of new features we've added to Silverlight 8.1, really to help your apps shine. There's a lot of new features we've added that weren't available on Windows Phone 8, and by using that and using it soon, you guys have early access to it. You guys can release some of these new features early, maybe get better user ratings, get more downloads, and hopefully make more money out of that. All right, so we are not here talking about the Silverlight web plugin. I think that's next door in an hour. So if you're not at the party across the street, I think there's another session. No, I'm just kidding. There's no sessions on the Silverlight web plugin this year, but I am talking about Windows Phone Silverlight apps. With Windows Phone 7, that was the first iteration of the Windows Phone Silverlight app framework. All right, so as I mentioned, we now have 2 XAML-based frameworks on Windows Phone. We have the new XAML Converged framework. We brought a lot of that from Windows. You've been hearing a lot of that in the keynote and other talks. And then we have our Silverlight-based framework. Like I said, that's the framework you've been using since Windows Phone 7. And we actually have 2 other frameworks as well on the phone, the WinJS framework and a pure native D3D type framework. And I'm not going to be talking about those 2 at all. I'm strictly going to talk about the 2 XAML frameworks. And again, I'll be using the term XAML apps versus Silverlight apps to describe these. The XAML apps, I may sometimes slip and say WinRT apps. XAML apps and WinJS apps are kind of subsets of the larger WinRT apps. All right, so our current landscape, we've made a large investment this time around, the last year and a half or so, in bringing over the Windows XAML stack to the phone. It is our XAML stack of the future. It's where innovation is going to happen first. Over time, as new devices come out, you'll see the XAML platform available for those as well. And we totally understand, however, that you guys have large investments or could have large investments in current Silverlight-based apps. And a big premise we had was leaving no developer behind. We wanted all Silverlight apps to be able to access as much of the new functionality as the new XAML apps can. Okay. And then lastly here is we just want to give you time to move your apps when you're ready and if you want. There may be valid reasons not to move your apps over to the XAML framework. Okay, right away, I just want to throw at you guys this huge slide with all the new features we've added to Silverlight 8.1. Ton of stuff in here. I'll give you just a second to digest it. And most of these have individual talks here this week. Half of them have probably happened already and half haven't. I'm not going to go into detail on these yet. A little later in the deck, I've got 4 or 5 slides, and I'm going to call out individual ones here and tell you what you can do with them. All right. You probably heard this in the keynote, but we have 90% API convergence, WinRT API convergence on our XAML framework. Now, there is a small set of APIs and features that haven't converged yet. Here's that list, and this is an important list. Because these are not available in XAML, but they are available in Silverlight, this list could help you decide to move to XAML or to stay on Silverlight. I'm going to call out a couple of these. The first two, lenses and VoIP support. If you have a VoIP app, there's not very many. There's some very key important VoIP apps, but you can only be a VoIP app if you're a Silverlight app. Again, that could be Silverlight 8.0 or the new Silverlight 8.1. Same with lenses. A lenses app allows your app to be launched from the camera app. You can pick lenses and your app gets listed there. You need to be a Silverlight app to participate in that. The next is a set of a couple of APIs I want to call out. A couple of the painful ones, actually. Clipboard APIs. There are no clipboard APIs in the XAML framework right now. It hasn't converged. Now, everything here will converge over time. We're trying to get everything into the new XAML framework, but just didn't make it this round. Very important to us. We're actually on the XAML convergence team working to make sure all of this comes over, working with the various teams that own these features. The next one, and the last one, or second last one I'm going to call out here, is the lock screen wallpaper provider. If your app uses a lock screen wallpaper, a weather app maybe, a stock app, sport app, social app, and you provide value with that lock screen, I'm curious, how many people use that right now? Any of you guys? Okay. This is only available in Silverlight right now as well. So these are two key APIs I've mentioned so far that might keep you on Silverlight. The next and last one I'll talk about here is the alarms and reminders and ringtone provider. More features that just didn't converge with sort of the big windows that we've converged with. All right. So I'm going to jump now to our first demo. Harini has a Reddit app in the store. It's live. And she's first going to give you a little walkthrough of the app. And then we're going to show you how easy it is to upgrade the app to Silverlight 8.1. It's real simple. So Harini, take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Sam. So yeah, this is a simple browse Reddit app that I have in the store right now. This is a Windows Phone Silverlight 8.0 app. It's an app that you can use to search and add subreddits that you are usually tracking. I have a couple of them added here, like Microsoft Intruder Detective and stuff like that. The app also lets you browse through multiple posts that have been posted towards that subreddit. It gives you a little bit of a snippet, and then you can get into a more detail of what that post is about by navigating into it. The app also has the standard features of sending feedback, rating the app in the store, things like that. It's a very simple, straightforward app, and this is kind of a small demo of the app.
Awesome. Can you, let's show them how easy it is to upgrade that guy.
Sure. So I'm going to use Visual Studio 2013 to try and upgrade this app to Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1. In order to do that, I have my app already loaded here. I'm going to right-click and say Retarget to Windows Phone 8.1. As soon as I do this, Visual Studio gives me an alert, which asks me to back up my project files for Windows Phone Silverlight 8. This is an important step to do. Make sure that your project files are backed up because this is not reversible. Once your app has been upgraded to 8.1, you cannot downgrade it back to 8.0. Moreover, an additional point is you might want to maintain an 8.0 version of your app in the store because until all the devices get upgraded to 8.1, you need to have your 8.0 version of your app in the store in addition to your 8.1 version of the app in the store. So I have a backup made in the app, so I'm going to just go ahead and say yes. As soon as I do that, Visual Studio has now converted my app, which was a Windows Phone Silverlight 8.0 app, into a Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1 app.
Do you want to run it real quick just to prove it builds and runs?
Sure.
So there's some extra files that got added there. I'm going to talk about those a little later.
Yeah, waiting for the emulator to load up.
I think if you close it and pick your other one, oh, there you go.
And there it is. So here my app has been loaded. It was just retargeted, and everything works as such.
Awesome. Thanks, Harini. Actually, before you go, can you show them real quick how to create? Some folks might want to actually just create a brand new one. And what she's going to show you now, in the template list, all the Windows Phone apps are sort of lumped together now. the XAML-based apps and the Silverlight-based apps. And you'll see she'll point out how to distinguish the two. There's the word Silverlight in there, and
Yep.
she'll point that out.
So let me quickly open a new instance of Visual Studio, and I do a file new project like usual. But the things that I want you to note is that you have store apps and you have the universal apps. These are the apps that are WinRT XAML. So any Windows Store and Windows Phone XAML app you need to create using a universal app. Within the Windows Phone apps subnode, you see a couple of app templates here. The first set of app templates for blank apps are actually XAML apps again. And down below, you actually see the blank app for Windows Phone Silverlight. So this is the template you want to choose if you want to create a Windows Phone Silverlight app. So let me go ahead and click OK. As soon as I do that, I now get a prompt which asks me to choose whether I want to create a Windows Phone Silverlight 8.0 or 8.1 version of the app. I'm going to go ahead and create a Windows Phone 8.1 app. And now I have successfully created a Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1 app. And within this, I want you to notice something that has been newly added to the Windows Phone app model. One of the files that's been added to your app will be a package.apex manifest file. Sam will actually give you a little more detail on what this file is and why this is needed in this scenario.
Awesome. Thank you, Harini. Yeah, you might think that's a little strange. There's this apex manifest file there. If you're familiar with Windows Store apps or the new XAML apps, you get an apex manifest file. So let me give you a little background on that. Silverlight 8.1 apps run in the modern context. Like, okay, what the heck does that mean? I need to explain this because there's some new behavioral changes that I'll talk about in a moment because of this. So a XAML app traditionally runs in a special app container with special security capabilities. Now, we wanted to take WinRT APIs and add them to Silverlight. The problem was those WinRT APIs were designed to be run under this other special app container with special securities around it. And so what we had to do is a lot of heavy lifting under the covers to run a Silverlight app in a similar manner as we do XAML apps. Silverlight apps are traditionally, well, actually, they're all .zap files. Silverlight 8.0 is zap. Silverlight 8.1 is the same thing. It's still .zap, even though it has this apex manifest file. Actually, I'll bring it up. Apex manifest file in it. Whereas the new XAML apps, they're apex files. So if you're used to doing Windows Store apps, it's the same as those. And so we have included the package.apex manifest. And you need this if you're using one of the new WinRT-based APIs, and it requires a security capability, for example, or you're using one of the new features like WNS, Windows Notification Service, or if you're a file picker provider, you need to do entries in the package.apex manifest. We still have, you can see a little higher up there under properties, the WM app manifest. You still use that the way you did before. If you're accessing any Silverlight 8.0-based APIs, you still need to add those capabilities to the top app manifest. So there's now 2 manifest files. If you were looking closely too, when Harini upgraded her app, her assets were expanded a little bit. A few new assets came in. There is a set of tiles that you can define in the Apex manifest. That's used if you're using WNS, the new Windows Notification Services. There's a great talk on WNS. I think it's tomorrow. It may have already happened. I'm not 100% sure. But check it out if you want more information on WNS. All right. So I mentioned, actually, I didn't mention this one yet. Silverlight 8.0 apps will run on 8.1 phones. Probably an obvious thing. Your old apps will run on the new OS. We spent a lot of time doing app compatibility testing to make sure everything works great. And they are 100% binary compatible. Now, you guys are getting the new tools this week. I would highly recommend, though, if you have existing 8.0 apps, go run it through the emulators on there. I know you haven't gotten the phone image yet. Run it through the emulators. There are new 1080p emulators included as well. Just do a nice end-to-end testing. You never know if there's some edge case that somehow there's some behavior difference in an edge case that you need to take care of in your app. Now, upgrading your app from 8.0 to 8.1 is not 100% source compatible. What I mean by that is we have a set of what we call upgrade breaking changes. Some of that is because of running in this new modern context, and some are because of bug fixes. All right, so, whoops. There are Probably 24 or so of these upgrade breaking changes. Every release, we always have a set of upgrade breaking changes that you need to look at. MSDN will have the full list. I'm not going to show you the full list now. However, I do want to give you an idea of what kind of things are there. The first is a set of Silverlight and CLR bug fixes that various teams did. I want to give two examples in the CLR. One is the array.sort had a fix to now use introspective sort instead of quick sort. That means the large, for different array set sizes, a different sorting algorithm internally could be used for better efficiency. What that means is it's no longer what we call a stable sort. So if you have items in that array that are duplicates, they may not always get returned in the same order. And we found some app compat problems in the past where that could cause an issue with an app if the app was doing something and depending on those matched items to come back in a specific order. Another example is datetime.parse. It used to throw a format exception for certain strings. I don't know the strings offhand, but those were actual valid strings that should not have thrown exceptions. The bugs have been fixed, but now it won't throw an exception. So if your app was expecting an exception because that's what was given to you, and now suddenly it's not getting one, that could cause your app to behave slightly differently. So there's a set of little fixes like that that went in. And then next is this whole modern context behavior difference. The main difference here is if you're familiar with Fast App Resume, a Silverlight 8.0 app has replace mode by default. What that means is when you launch your Silverlight 8.0 app, and then navigate around, and then hit the Start button. The next time, if you go back and launch your app again, it's replaced, hence the word replace. And that means the app takes, the old one gets terminated, and it takes a little longer for the app to come up. It's not the best user experience. We did have the ability to turn on Fast App Resume. You can change in your manifest file that value replace to resume, and it would actually resume where it left off. It would have been suspended and then resumed. Now, in the new XAML app world, Fast App Resume is the default, and in fact, you can't set it to replace. So you can only use Fast App Resume. Because Silverlight 8.1 apps are running in this modern context, it takes on the same behavior. Therefore, if your app currently, maybe it stored some state on the terminated event, and then when it gets relaunched, you wanted that data to come back or something like that, you may have to revisit some of your logic in your in those your suspending or terminated events to make sure it interacts well. Now this last point here, hitting back does terminate the app just like Silverlight 8.0. Just like, so it's not actually an upgrade breaking change. It's the same behavior. I'm calling it out because XAML apps have a different behavior. When you hit the back button on a XAML app, it doesn't actually terminate. I know that seems a little odd, but the reason we do that is so when you hold the back button down and get your task switcher list, it'll still show up there, and the user can relaunch it, and it resumes really fast. Or if they relaunch your app from the tile, it resumes really fast. Silverlight 8.0 and Silverlight 8.1 don't do that by default. Now, for Silverlight 8.1, we've actually added a new API called navigation service.pause on back that will allow you to have that same behavior. So your Silverlight app will actually then show up in the task list when you exit it, and the user can launch it back quickly. It's not the default, but we highly recommend you guys using it. It's a better user experience, and it's a little more consistent with the XAML apps. Okay, this one here is a bit of a painful slide to show. There are two features in Silverlight 8.1 that will not currently work. It's a very high priority for us to get them to work. Background audio and continuous background agents. Continuous background agents, execution agents, are used mostly for GPS apps. There's a very small number of apps. There's still important apps that use them. They are not available in Silverlight 8.1. The same with background audio. Because we did a lot of heavy lifting to have Silverlight run in modern context, there was a lot of issues with some of the background interactions it worked with, and they weren't able to get this up to the quality we wanted. We are working hard to try to get this into a future update, like not wait a whole year or whatnot. Don't have any announcements on that yet, but hopefully we can get that in really soon. We know this is a big pain point. That means if you have a music app and you depend on background audio, you'll need to keep it at Silverlight 8.0, or the new XAML apps do support background audio as well. whereas the CBE's, continuous background agents, are only supported in Silverlight 8.0. Again, these will converge, that one will converge over time to the XAML framework as well. Now on to the good stuff, the new features with Silverlight 8.1. There's really two sets of new features. First, there's some native stuff. If you write a native app or a hybrid app, if you're using Silverlight, you can submit native code with it, and at ingestion time, we call it our PAL, Platform Allow List. We check the PE headers of all the DLLs and make sure you're not using system APIs that you're not allowed to use. We have a whitelist. It was a big ask on user voice and whatnot to allow our native apps and hybrid apps to use D2D, DWrite, WIC. It's an imaging library. They've been on the system, but we just didn't have full testing in the past. Now we're allowing those APIs to go through store ingestion. The PAL list we use here is the same list that we use for native app as well as the new XAML app. So it's sort of converged there. We let you use the same set of Win32 APIs across all our platforms. And then the last set of new APIs I'm really going to talk about are the new WinRT APIs. There's not really any new .NET APIs in Silverlight 8.1. We haven't invested in any new controls or fixing any existing controls. A lot of the control investment was all in the XAML platform. Again, like that's our one platform we're really innovating on first. And now, though, I want to show you all the great features that we've added with from the XAML world into Silverlight 8.1. So Silverlight 8.0 has a list of WinRT APIs it can use. And XAML 8.1 has its set of WinRT APIs it can use. Now Silverlight 8.1 it's a superset of Silverlight 8.0, has everything Silverlight 8.0 had, plus a very large subset of the 8.1 XAML WinRT APIs. So you may ask, well, why didn't you expose everything? Okay, I have a good answer. Some APIs just didn't make sense. In a XAML app, you have a namespace like windows.ui.xaml. And then under there, you have all the controls, like button, as an example. Those controls are designed for the XAML runtime. They make no sense to the Silverlight runtime engine. Can't do anything with those. So we didn't expose those. Next, we don't support MRT in Silverlight. We didn't support it in 8.0. We still don't support it in 8.1. And there was a very small set of APIs, I think under the globalization namespace, that used MRT under the covers, so we didn't expose those. And then lastly, we really wanted to focus our testing efforts on a lot of the high-value features that I showed you at the beginning of that big chart. And a lot of the features that are there were voted very highly on our user voice from you guys, from you developers. Okay, now the next 4 or 5 slides, I'm going to walk through some of these features. And again, there are many talks on a lot of these new features individually. So if you want more information than I can give you, highly recommend checking those out. So on the first slide here, SD card support. You can now read and write to the SD card. Awesome. Anyone else? You guys can clap too. No? Okay. All right. Maybe I'll have another feature you guys can clap for. Share source and share target. We've brought over the share contract. There was a talk earlier today on how you can share in a XAML app. And some of these talks cover the Silverlight aspect of it as well. But generally, the code is identical. So some may only focus on the XAML side of things. But if I'm showing it here, and I'm saying it's available in Silverlight 8.1, you can use it in Silverlight 8.1 as well. So you can now share your data. Previously, you can only share text, and there's a share contract, and you could share text and hyperlinks. Now you can share binary data as well. Harini is going to give a little demo of that in her Reddit app in a few minutes. Next, I mentioned briefly the WNS, and it interacts with the new notification center, and then storage, picker, provider, and provider. So if you want to write an app like OneDrive, for example, where you store files on behalf of users or provide files, you can now do that. And again, if you are a picker provider, you would enter your declarations in that new AppX manifest, the same way you would do in the XAML-based apps. This one, I love these new features, geofencing and Bluetooth LE. Bluetooth LE has been a very big ask for us. And yeah, it's an awesome thing. Like all your fitness devices, your heart rate monitors, there's some cool key fobs. You can attach them to your kids or pets, and if you want to write an app, and like, there's no apps that exist yet to do this, so go write them. You know, when your dog runs away, it'll pop up a toast or do something else. You can now do that with Silverlight. So with geofencing and Bluetooth LE, in your foreground app, you can call those APIs. Now, we had a little bit of a dilemma in that to make those valuable, like you want something to happen when your app is not in the foreground. Now, if you're familiar with Windows Phone Silverlight 8.0 apps, we have a concept of background agents. And if you're familiar with geofencing or Bluetooth LE, you need something in there to trigger that agent, not just like every 30 minutes, check. It's kind of useless. You know, my kid ran away a half hour ago, great. And so what we've done is we've actually taken the background tasks from the XAML framework. And you can now integrate those into your Silverlight 8.1 app. It's a little interesting here. That means when you use that background task, you're using the WinRT API set from the XAML world, from the XAML WinRT API set. So you have a little more flexibility there. The great thing, too, is over time, if you start using this and then later on you want to migrate your app to XAML, that should just copy over 100%, this background task. There's a great talk by Sean Henry on background tasks. He'll give a lot more information. Later, Harini is going to show you how easy it is to add a background task to your Silverlight project. Known folders. In Windows Phone 8 right now, you can't actually, from your app, get to some of these folders, like video folders. So if you wanted to write an app that edited the user's video and then stored it back, there's no way to do that. Now you can get to all these known folders. And the next two were very big asks on our user voice. Appointment and calendar enhancements. So today, in Windows Phone 8, you can query for all your appointments, and you can create an appointment. But you couldn't edit one or delete one. There's all these appointment calendar apps out there, and they're limited in this functionality. With this now, in a single 1 or 2 API calls, you can now do that and add a lot more value to your app right now. And then the last one, this one is actually really important to me, email with attachments. I have an app, it's called My Notes. Woo, okay, it's important to you guys too. Yeah, you think it was it's a simple little thing, but it was missing. And I have an app in the store, and for the last year and a half, it's actually been in the top 100. It's been great that way, making a little money. And it's called My Notes. And users have been adding photos to their notes. And one of my biggest asks was, please let me email those photos with the note. You can already share it, you can SMS it, but you just can't add these photos. And my answer is always like, well, if Microsoft provides it, then I can do it. I usually don't tell them I work for Microsoft, but I love this feature, and I just added it to my code 2 days ago, and it was great. I was using the new file APIs as well. It was so much nicer to not have to do all my usings around opening isolated storage. There was one nice API, new WinRT API. I don't remember the exact name, but it allows you just to open it up, pass in the file name, open it up, get the exact stream I need to pass into the email attachment property. It was just 2 lines of code to add that. It was great. So I can't wait to get an update out with that. This is my last slide on features I'm going to call out. Web authentication. Anyone done OAuth before in their phone app? Okay, a few of you. It's painful, right? Okay, if you've done it in a store app, a Windows store app, it's a little better with WebAuth. And we've brought that over. So now you don't have to fidget around with figuring out how to bring a web browser control in and set your tokens and go back and forth. The system will help do that for you. The UI is system UI. Hopefully users would trust that a little more than your own UI. And then you can get the token back. So it's the same way you can do it in a Windows 8 or 8.1 app. The next one is data roaming. We now support data roaming. That's a great one. You can roam your data in the cloud. You can now actually associate your phone app with a store app if you want, and data roam the app, your settings, for example, so that both of those versions will get that same set of settings or other files if you store them in there. Right on. And then lastly, accessibility. We've done a lot of work for accessibility on Windows Phone 8.1, and there's a lot more provided in a XAML. Did you just lose your phone clapping? That's awesome. there, there's a lot more in the XAML area for accessibility. But we've provided UIA, that's UI automation support, to the controls. You'll have to style, do a little work yourself for the large text and high contrast, however. We allow you to get the properties. So if the user has turned high contrast on or large text, on the XAML framework, they actually have the themes built in for all the controls to switch for you automatically. In Silverlight, unfortunately, we didn't do that, but we allow you to do that. So if you care a lot about accessibility and you want your app to be really accessible, you can at least get the values that the user set on their phone and then change your controls appropriately. All right, so let's jump into another demo now. We're going to show you how easy it is to add a new feature. We're not going to go into too much details on the feature itself. We just picked one that was easy. So Harini, take it away.
Yep. So one of the features that we were just talking about was the capability to use the share contract from the WinRT XAML world within your Windows Phone Silverlight app. So I'm just taking the app that I just upgraded to Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1, and I'm going to add the capability to use the share contract instead of doing an email compose task. So in order to do that, the first step that I need to do is to initialize my data transfer manager. The data transfer manager is the WinRT API for the share contract. And once I initialize this data transfer manager, I have to handle the data requested event. This is the event. This is the event callback, event that gets called back when the user actually invokes the share contract. Inside this data requested event, I'm now going to try and add a data that's not just text, but also something binary. So right now I'm trying to add a storage item, which is, for this example, I'm just using a small image file from my project. So what I'm doing here is plopping a title, which is just a text, as well as this storage item into the data package that is going to be passed on to the share target. So any app in your phone or in your device that can accept a share can now get this text as well as this, this entire storage item that we are passing to it. So there's the third step that's left is to merely show the share UI. What I'm going to do there is to just, I don't need this anymore because I don't want to do an email compose task. And I'm just going to add one line of code which shows the share UI. So now my app is ready to share content and share a binary and not just a text. So let me quickly show you what that's about. I'm going to go here and say send feedback. This is just an example. And I'm going to choose OneNote as the app that I want to share to. As soon as I choose it, and once it launches, it'll take just a little bit, you'll be able to see that not just the text, I'm now able to share that image file that I tried to put it into my data package as well. Just loading.
And while she's talking, I see Arun sitting back there. He gave a great talk on this specific feature, and he walks line by line on it. He gave it a few hours ago, so it'll probably be ready tomorrow or so on video.
Yep, so you can see that this image file that we just added has now been shared into this application as well.
Awesome, thanks, Harini. Now, we told you that I was going to show you how to add a background task as well. So that'll be her last demo here. Can you show how simple it is to add a XAML-based background task to your Silverlight 8.1 project?
So that's extremely simple as well. It's basically a set of 4 steps. The first step would be to actually create my background task. Like Sam just mentioned, a background task is going to be a WinRT's XAML component. So what I'm going to do is add a new project to my solution. The type of this project is going to be a Windows runtime component. So this is a WinRT component that we are adding to our Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1 app. And in order to make this app, runtime component a background task, all I have to do is implement the iBackground task interface. As soon as I do this, I have to resolve it using the Windows application model.background namespace. This iBackground task interface has a method called run that you have to implement. And basically, that method is what gets invoked when your background task has to run. I'm not going to go into the details of how to implement it and what you have to do at that point. There is a great talk by Sean Henry, I think maybe today or later tomorrow, that is going to go into details of how to add a background task to your app. You can check that out if you want more details. Now that we have a background task some kind of set up, the next step for us would be to add a reference to our Windows Phone Silverlight app to actually reference that background task. So let's quickly add that. I'm just going to say, bring in the Windows runtime component that we just added. So now my Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1 app has been associated with this Windows runtime component. So you can see that there's a seamless existence of both types of components here. The third step would be to actually register the background task from your app. So I'm just going to copy and paste a little bit of a snippet of code here, and I'll show you some small details on what this is about. Some of the steps here would be to request a background access status from the OS for your app to register for a background task. Once you have requested the access, you then register for a type of trigger that you want your background task to be fired for. In this example, I'm using a system trigger. You can use multiple different triggers, which will again be something that Sean Henry will be talking about. The third step would be to actually just register your background task with the OS. You can see that there is a task entry point here, which is merely the namespace.class name of the WinRT component that we just added. Now we are down to 3 steps. The fourth step to complete the registration of the background task would be to actually add it to my package.apex manifest. Like Sam just mentioned, since we are adding a WinRT component, we have to add it to the package.apex manifest file and not the WM apex manifest file. So here, I'm going to go to declarations and say, add a background task for me. I want the background task to be of type system event because that's the trigger that I'm looking for. And I'm going to mention the same entry point that I had in my code behind, which is the namespace.class name of the WinRT component that we just registered. And with these steps, we are now registered for a background task, which is a WinRT component from your Silverlight app. Back to you, Sam.
Awesome, thanks. So, quick review here. So, creating brand new Silverlight 8 or 8.1 apps, very simple, probably nothing you didn't expect. Upgrading your app or retargeting, very simple. Adding new features, again, because of the WinRT, you get IntelliSense for everything, real simple as well. And then adding background tasks, that's the same set of steps you would go through if you were doing that in a XAML-based app. Now, a few notes on app deployment. So, Silverlight 8.1 apps only run on on a Windows Phone 8.1. Probably makes sense. Same with the new XAML apps only run on the 8.1 update. But all phones, all Windows phones, will be upgradable to 8.1. I don't know the exact time frame it's going to take for everyone, all phones in the wild to get upgraded, but it could take several months. No, all Windows Phone 8s will be upgradable to Windows Phone 8.1. Yeah. Okay, so the store now supports 3 versions of your app. It supports the 7.1 version for your Windows Phone 7s. It supports the 8.0 version, so that's what it's like today. You can put 2. And now it supports a 3rd version, 8.1, either a Silverlight 8.1 or a XAML 8.1. You can't have both, obviously. And the appropriate version will get installed on the user's phone depending on their operating system version. Are there still issues? I don't know which issues you're referring to.
If you had a 7.1 app with a higher version number than the .8, does 7.1 get installed on 8?
Does 7.1 get installed on 8? No. Well, let's talk after. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm following 100%, but yeah, let's chat. Okay, so app submission here. Just lastly here, I want to show you a manual step you need to do in your Silverlight 8.1 before you can deploy your app to the store. It's a little bit different than what you do with a XAML app. If you're familiar with a XAML app, you need to reserve an app name. You now need to also reserve an app name for your Silverlight 8.1 app. WNS, for example, needs you to do that. And because it gives you an app name, a package identity name, well, it generates a package identity name, which needs to get into the AppX file, and this is your publisher name. These 3 pieces of data need to get into your AppX manifest file. Okay? On a Windows Store app or the new XAML app, you right-click on your project, and there's a store in the context menu. There's a store node, and underneath that, there's a node called Associate App. Are you guys familiar with that? Have you seen that? Okay. That is not available at Silverlight 8.1. So you have to do this one step manually once for your app. So you need these 3 pieces of information. When you go to your existing 8.1 app now, there's that new button, Reserve App Name. And if you have an existing app Like I said, you can reserve a name, or if you're creating a brand new app, you reserve your name. And the next slide will show you where to put these 3 pieces of data. So you've got your AppX manifest file. One of those entries was the publisher name. It was a GUID. And there's no place in the UX, in the manifest editor, to put it in. So what you do is you right-click on the manifest, the AppX manifest, and you say View Code. And then this is where these 3 pieces of data need to go: the app name, the publisher name, and the package identity name. Again, one-time thing, need to set it. Say again?
Is it unique? So in phone 8 Pro, I mean, there's apps that have the same name.
Yeah, new apps need to be unique. Okay, so if you're creating a brand new app, it needs to be unique. Now, we felt this pain. Actually, originally it was going to be all unique. But if you have an existing app, it is a phone app only, it was possible that someone already reserved your name in the Windows Store. Because when you reserve a name, it's now converged. So what we did for that is, and actually it leads to the next slide, if you have a brand new app, you need to take your app name and also put it in your WM app manifest. So a brand new Silverlight 8.1 app needs to have the same app name here that you registered, and it needs to match between the WM app manifest and the AppX manifest. Now, if you're upgrading your app and it existed before and you couldn't get that reserved name, we let you keep the name here that you previously had. The store won't reject it. And this is because this is the string name that shows up in your file list and the store. So you can keep that using that old name that you had. But for all new apps, you have to reserve a name. Same as Windows Store.
Seems like you get around that pretty easily by submitting an EO app first.
Yeah, yeah. Tell you what, hold questions. I'm almost at the end, and the problem is when we record, we can't get your questions on the mic, so give me like 2 more minutes here. And all right, so let's see where we're at here. Which XAML framework should you use? Okay, so this is an interesting question because it varies. If you're building a new app, I mentioned innovation is going to happen first in the XAML framework. I also mentioned, new devices over time are going to happen in the XAML framework. You saw in the keynote, they talked about Xbox. Don't have any announcements there, but you can imagine one day we'll have that. XAML framework might be an option there. But if you don't care about desktop or tablet support right now, and you have a lot of investment in your Silverlight apps or your Silverlight libraries, stay with Silverlight. Silverlight is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It just doesn't have the cross support that XAML-based apps have right now. If you have an existing Windows Store app, super easy now to turn that into the universal app and add phone support. Very easy. Whoops. Then there's the caveats, the things that are sort of missing from the XAML framework, and I'll call out a few here. So again, I'll mention if you have a lock screen, if you use a lock screen image, so a sport app, weather app, social app, and that's value you add in your app that you couldn't lose, stick with Silverlight 8.0 or 8.1. If you are a camera-based app or a VoIP app, again, you'll need to stick with Silverlight 8.0 or 8.1. Now, a music app is the odd one where you can't go to Silverlight 8.1, but you can either be on Silverlight 8.0 or XAML. And I say music app only if you need background audio specifically. So when the app is not in the foreground anymore and you need the audio to continue playing and access it from the volume up and down where you can advance or rewind your tracks. And then lastly here, if you've got existing Silverlight phone apps, the option is either stay with where you're at, or if you want to go to the XAML framework to be available on more devices, go there. I mentioned my Note app earlier. I'm actually doing both of those right now. My users are asking me for a desktop version of my app. Now the problem is, because it's a note-taking app, they're not just asking for that. They're asking now, I've got to sync files between the phone app and that, so it's a lot more work. So I've started building a XAML-based version of my app, but in the short term, the next month or so, I want to push out those new updates. I want to use the photos, the attachments on emails. So I'm going to push that out in the short term and then start migrating my app to XAML. But it really depends on what you guys need to do. So we really want to let you know that you don't have to move to XAML apps. There's some advantages to it. We're going to keep converging. If there's a few things here that you really need, like the clipboard APIs, those will converge over time. And those are very high priorities for us to get to. On my last slide here, wrapping up, I hope I've given you a good understanding of the two XAML frameworks on the phone, the XAML apps and the Silverlight-based apps. And we walked through a lot of the new WinRT APIs. Again, I call it, there's a lot of different talks here on these specific features. And if they're talking about WinRT apps or XAML apps only, it pertains to Silverlight 8.1 apps in most cases as well. So what I really want you to do is, you can add a lot of value right now with these new APIs. And hopefully, my hope is, as for my own app, I get more higher reviews from my users, more downloads, and just make more money. Now, last thing I just want to say, and I mentioned this earlier a little bit, is that, as you're going and using these new APIs, if at some point in the future you change your mind, you do want to migrate to the XAML stack, then all that code that you've added, the WinRT code, the new WinRT code, is easily ported over now, like cut and paste almost, like the background task stuff, cut and paste. And then the last note here is portable class libraries now actually support targeting both Silverlight and XAML. So that might be another way to get you there over time if you want to just take your time getting over to the XAML area. With that, we're done. I'd love to hear some questions. We got a few prizes. I really want to thank you guys for coming out today. I know your time is valuable, and we'd love to hear some feedback from you on the talk as well. And I see some people already lining up, so awesome. Okay, saw you first. Thanks, guys.
So I work on a turn-by-turn navigation app. So would I be locked to Silverlight 8.0 since I need to be able to run in the background?
You're using the continuous background execution agents? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, wait, come here. You asked the first question. So you get headphones. Got some more little speakers and battery chargers. You can just come grab one after you ask. All right, over there.
Different question than before. The feature that lets you, if you purchase an app on one platform and it applies to other, does this work with Silverlight as well?
Yes, because the app's there's one app in the store, and you can have 3 versions of it, so it's associated with the same app.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's Silverlight or WinRT.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
We have a number of Windows Phone 7 apps that we built that our customers, some of our customers were still very happy with and didn't pay to upgrade to Windows Phone 8 because they work well in Windows Phone 8. Will they work in Windows Phone 8.1?
Absolutely. Okay. Yep. All apps will work on Windows Phone 8.1. We did a lot of app compatibility testing. And, over there.
What's the tooling if you want to work on an 8 app and also an 8.1?
So as you saw, Harini showed when you're starting a new app, you can build either one, 8.0 or 8.1 in Visual Studio 2013. So what I do, and some people use PCLs, but to support my multiple versions, I just have a single solution. I have 2 versions underneath there. Okay. We don't have the universal project support for this. It'd be nice, and you have a shared node. I think over time they're looking at extending that so it can work like for libraries and things like that as well. I hope they do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey.
Hi, Justin Angel. So I want to ask the $64 million question.
All
Looks
right.
like you've done a really good job on this release on giving us all the new AppX features in Silverlight's apps, which is awesome. Like, I'm super excited about this. Is that going to be the case when Windows Phone 8.2 rolls around? Are we going to get all the new features?
Yeah,
that are gonna be introduced
honestly, we're so at the early stages of our planning right now, and we're converging stuff. I don't know the full story there yet. I think if you look at right now, there's 250,000 Silverlight apps. How many XAML apps for Windows Phone are there now?
there? Exactly.
0. Actually,
And 0
there's 3 on the
consumers.
phone. 3 on the phone. No, there's 3 or 4 on the phone.
Well, there's also 0 consumers, which is why I'm asking. I'm like,
Yeah.
how long can I keep my Silverlight app, which kind of works okay across all users right now?
Yeah, and again, you can keep it. So I think 6 months from now, if we see tons of momentum still just going with Silverlight, and I think we will for a while. I see us continuing to invest there. We're so at the beginning stages of our planning. I don't know what we're going to do. I can't commit to anything, but I hope we do. And we kind of own some of that area, so we're going to bring that feedback. And it's great to hear you guys are asking for that too,
Yeah.
not just the new XAML stack, but continued stuff. Yeah.
Excellent. It's great to know that you look at app numbers and stuff
Yeah.
like that and see if we have.
Yeah, and because we did a lot of this architectural changes now of running in the modern stack, adding new APIs in one spot, it's actually pretty easy for us. It's like adding it, if you're familiar with the WinMD file, it's pretty simple for us to do it. And just a bunch of extra, it's mostly testing costs. So I hope to see us do that as well.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Come grab something.
My question is kind of specific. I'm wondering about speech recognition libraries. I know that on modern apps, you usually need to download the Bing SDK, and Windows Phone already included Bing, speech recognition libraries.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, what is the convergence story here?
Okay, so I'm not on that team, but I know a little bit about it. So Windows Phone 8 supports a set of WinRT speech APIs. I use them in some of my apps. You can dictate, or you can have your text read to you. And there's a new converged version that comes with XAML apps. That one is not available on Silverlight 8.1. You still stick with the older one. I think it came down to a testing cost for the team. And so that is one set of APIs that are not available on Silverlight 8.1.
Okay, because I didn't see them on the list.
Yeah,
So I was
yeah.
wondering.
Good question. Yeah, but the old ones work really well. I don't know if you've run into any issues, and I think that was one of the priorities. Like, would it add any extra value right now? Is there something missing? No, I think it wasn't missing. It would have been nice to bring over more, but there's a situation like that.
Yeah, I guess my question is more like, if you already have an app that does speech recognition on the store and you want to extend it to the Windows modern app store,
Yeah.
then you'll probably need to migrate.
You'll need to migrate. And it's very similar. I did it recently in one of my apps, and it's very similar. So it's not a difficult migration path.
All right, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've kind of looked around a little bit, but are you guys publishing anywhere the actual figures of how many Windows Phone 7 or like download rate kind of, are people still downloading a lot of these legacy apps, I guess?
You know,
I know a lot of people
I
are
don't think
transferring.
we officially publish anything. I have an app I mentioned in the store, and it's like number 85. I still see a significant number. I have two versions, like one with in-app purchases, and then for Windows Phone 7 version, I have a paid version. And I still see it's probably about a tenth of my downloads are Windows Phone 7. So I think there's still people out there that are actively purchasing apps.
I saw a lot of the large developers, they publish their numbers, but it'd be cool to see overall eventually.
Yeah, and I can get that feedback back to the marketing guys, and I don't know their philosophy on it, but yeah. Definitely, I think that's a valuable number for you developers to have. Yeah, good question.
Whenever you upgrade a Silverlight 8 app to Silverlight 8.1, will you need to retarget any PCLs that it's referencing?
No, you'll have to do that manually.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
You didn't mention integration with Cortana at all. Well, can we do that with Silverlight?
There are no direct APIs in Silverlight 8.1 to integrate with Cortana. There's the old speech APIs, and in the XAML apps, there's a new set of speech APIs. I don't know how directly, how much integration with Cortana they have, besides using similar speech engine stuff. I'm not too familiar. I think there's a speech talk here, and they'll probably give a bit more information on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You answered a lot of my previous questions. So, but I still got one. About the SD card and the known folders like videos, do we get full accessibility to that? Full write, full read?
Yes.
Or was it limited to some kind of like a file types?
Yeah, no, as I understand it, Arun left, he's the PM on it. He was there a little while ago and gave a talk on it. I can't confirm 100%, but as far as I understand, you have full access, read and write access to the whole directory, where your video library or your photo library.
That's correct.
So,
Okay, Jeff.
So if we write a file to the like video, and we go to the Xbox video app, was it there? Was it the same thing?
I think so. I haven't tested that.
I don't know the Xbox, it's the video library.
Yeah. I would think so.
Okay, we tested in the dev preview and not so sure.
Okay.
Okay, maybe we'll
Yeah,
check
I'm not
later.
100% sure. I'd need to talk to the program managers that own that feature, unfortunately. But if you want to chat with me, I can get your name and hook you up with the guy after. Yeah. Do you want to? There's 2 left up here. 2 battery chargers. Yeah.
Hello. I have 2 questions. In fact, maybe they are tightly linked to each other. My first question is, I have an application which targets Windows Phone 7, Windows Phone 8, as well as Windows 8 at the moment.
Okay.
For this, I use PCLs with TFS branches because for Windows Phone 7, you cannot share the code with the PCLs and things like that. What would be the recommendation if you want to converge all this application? Would it be better to keep the Silverlight application and to migrate to 8.1, or would it be better to use a universal app? Because I don't have any issue with the APIs I use.
With the APIs? That's kind of it's a tough one to answer because it's all, how much code do you want to go change to do that? Unfortunately, migrating a Silverlight app to the XAML framework, we don't have any tools for it. We just couldn't, it can't be done in such, we investigated it, we did some prototypes. We can't do it in such a way that the app will just run 100%. There's so many differences between the XAML frameworks that it can't be done. So it's really on, maybe look at your long-term plans. If you want a nice single code base for that, of course, if you do that, then, and Phone 7 is kind of one that's a little odd there because you can't support those, and all 8.0 phones can be upgraded to 8.1. And so, I think over time and with the momentum we're seeing in the marketplace, I don't know of any Windows Phone 7s being sold anymore. So I think over time that market's going to go quite down. And so I personally recommend going with the XAML route if you're able to, because then in the future when we have new devices and things like that, it's just much easier. And it's a much easier model to work with, I've found.
Okay. And the second question is about the different DPIs and resolutions of the phones. As I understood, there is the interpretation between Silverlight 8.1 and the XAML framework are different. You have to multiply things by 0.8 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know that very well. Peter Torr is our man who does it. He's got a talk, I believe it's tomorrow, and it's called, I think, From 4 inches to 40 inches.
It was yesterday, yeah.
Oh, yesterday, okay. So the video's available. Actually, I don't know if he covers Silverlight apps. I might need to talk to him. But yeah, there is a difference where we used actual pixels in Silverlight 8.0 and Silverlight, and XAML, they use a different numbering system. So it is a little confusing, and I still get confused on it sometimes.
So migrating from one type of application to another can be painful, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not easy just to port over your same numbers as you did before. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, do either of the frameworks support third-party DL, specifically the Nokia imaging?
Oh yeah. All of the both. All the Nokia stuff works in Silverlight 8.0. It was built for that. Now, because it is a version upgrade, generally most of our partners are working on a Silverlight 8.1 version. Generally, the 8.0s will work, but because remember I mentioned we're not 100% source compatible.
Yeah, I did see something about image extensibility on your slides. I wasn't sure if that's what it was referencing.
Oh no, and so like companies like Telerik Controls and things like that, they'll be providing updates to their tools. And in fact, you actually Rohan over here was asking me to get maybe a show of hands. How many people use the Silverlight toolkit right now? Okay. A lot of people, okay. He just wants to get the numbers because he works directly, I think he runs the toolkit and builds it and does it all. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, thank you.
Great. Is that it? Well, thank you guys so much. Go enjoy that party. Watch a good movie, have fun. You guys are tired. Well, it's 6:30, yeah, it's kind of late, isn't it? End of the day. Have a coffee. I think there's still coffee out there. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.